Good afternoon, everyone, and hearty welcome you all. Myself, Dr. P. Sendil Kumar, working as Assistant Professor in the Department of Biotechnology, Konganadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. On behalf of PG and Research Department of Biotechnology, it's my great pleasure to host this fifth and final day International Alumni Webinar Series on Insights into Translational Research and its Applications. With all your cordial cooperation, as well as the moral support and motivation of our Secretary and Director, Dr. C.A. Vasugi ma'am, we have completed fourth day of this webinar series successfully. Now I call upon Dr. M. Gogul Ramnath, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, offer the welcome address and introduce today's chief guest. Sir, please.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible? May I proceed? Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Dr. M. Gokul Ramnath, working as Assistant Professor in Department of Biotechnology, Konganadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. As one of the alumnus of this prestigious institution, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all for the fifth and final day of this International Alumni Webinar Series on Insights into Translational Research and its Application. First of all, I would like to dedicate my welcome in absentia of our beloved beloved President Dr. M. Aruchami sir and our Secretary and Director Dr. C. Vasugi madam for their immense support and motivation for all our endeavors. I would like to welcome our respected Principal Dr. M. Lakshmana Swami sir, who has given his valuable guidance and support. I extend my warm welcome to the dynamic person, Chief Executive Officer Dr. V. Chinnaswamy sir, and the kind and courteous person, Dean R&D Dr. S. Paulswamy sir, for their constant support and encouragement for all our activities. I feel happy to welcome our beloved conveners Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar sir, Dean Academics cum Head in PG and Department of Biotechnology, and Dr. V. Bhuvaneshwari madam, Associate Professor cum Head in UG Department of Biotechnology, who have been the backbone of this webinar series. Welcome both of you. I am very much proud to invite our today's research person and one of my MSc classmate, Dr. Prasant Mani Iyer, who readily accepted our invitation and spared time from his busy schedule. Welcome you. It's my great pleasure to welcome Organizing Secretary Dr. R. Amsavini Madam, Session Coordinators Dr. P. Sendil Kumar Sir, Dr. G. Anbarsi Madam, Dr. R. Ranjit Kumar Sir, and Dr. B. Vishnupriya Madam. Welcome you all. I extend my warm welcome to all our participants for today's session. With this welcome note, it's my great privilege to say about today's research person, Dr. Prasant Mani Iyer. He did his BSc in Biotechnology at Nehru Arts and Science College and MSc in Biotechnology at Konganadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. He has completed his PhD in Biotechnology at Alappa University, Karaikudi, Tamil Nadu. During the time of his PhD, he worked in several projects as a Junior Research Fellow supported by AUITC India, Senior Research Fellow supported by CSIR India, and UGC BSR Fellow supported by UGC India. He has done his postdoctoral research in Department of Clinical Chemistry, Faculty of Allied Health Sciences, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, supported by Rajda Pishek Sombat Fund. His area of specialization is analyzing the neuroprotective and anti-aging effects of Thailand medicinal plants using neurological cells and C. elegans model. He also worked as a researcher in Immunomodulation of Natural Product Research Group, Bangkok, Thailand. He has filed 6 national patents entitled Personal Care Compositions for Anti-Aging. He has published 20 research papers in peer-reviewed journals with cumulative impact factor of 61.40 and average impact factor of about 3.07. He also published one book chapter in Elsewhere and submitted a sequence in NCBI. With this brief introduction, I invite Dr. Prasant Mani Iyer to take over the session. Sir, please.
Hello, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Google. Thank you for introducing me. It was so kind of you. And indeed, I'm feeling very happy and a bit uh, emotional that I'm back to my college where I have did my masters. And as suggested by Google, we were classmates during our PG. So with this, I'll let me start my presentation. Can I just go to my presentation? Can you stop this which you are presenting? Yeah, thank you. So can you see the slides now?
Yes, sir. Just to make it as full screen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Just
Yeah.
you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I'm going to talk to you about an in vivo model organism which is named as Caenorhabditis elegans and how it is used for the anti-aging neuroprotection based drug discovery based studies. So before I go, I just want to tell you that why we all should study about aging. Even though aging is a process which we cannot hold or stop by ourselves. So every individual in and around us, they would like to look and feel themselves much younger irrespective of their biological age. And there are many living examples in and around us who are living beyond their biological age. To give you some examples, somebody who became Miss Thailand when she was 17 years old and see how she has become when she was 67. You all would have seen about 5 years challenges, 10 years challenges in Facebook, but somebody has done a 19-year challenge. Still, she is looking almost very similar Storm in X-Men. Also, two other known people for all of us who are looking like brothers, actually a father who is 68 and son who is 33. So with this, we can say that aging as the changes that takes place in cells, tissues and organs of an organism of an individual during his entire lifetime. Also, aging can be broadly classified into two, intrinsic and also extrinsic aging process, wherein the intrinsic aging is the chronological aging process that happens to them every day, whereas the extrinsic aging is the stress-induced one. So when there is an increase in the stress-induced aging process, that will accelerate the overall aging process, which can have multiple health effects. So what all health defects can happen when aging takes place? Majorly, it will reduce the immune system, which will lead to many neurodegenerative and also cardiovascular diseases, which we have discussed already in the previous webinar series also. So the motto of aging research is to develop a healthy aging process. Aging has been monitored by many different parameters, and currently we will be focusing here based on the neuroprotective and also stress-induced aging process. To tell you about the neurodegenerative disorders, majorly the brain is the one of the very complex part of the body which is metabolically active and also gets under oxidative stress very usually. This will lead to many kind of neurodegenerative disorders which includes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's and many other diseases. Alzheimer's is one of the most common neurodegenerative disease that comes to humans, and according to studies, it is viewed that the level of Alzheimer's is increasing every year, and it is expected that by 2050 it may reach even up to 115 million of the whole population. Some of the major pathways that mediate the Alzheimer's is the cholinergic pathway, the A-beta pathway, tau pathway, glutamate toxicity, and also inflammatory response. So with this, why we all should need drugs? The major thing is because every individual, they cannot just have one particular disease or one particular disorder at a time. As we grow more and more older, the chances of getting very minute diseases like or many minute problems like a stress or maybe based on diet or something, or even on the other end, it can go up to cardiovascular diseases, cancer, or even any other higher diseases during the lifetime of an individual. This will lead to neurodegeneration of humans, and to prevent these kind of neurodegeneration, we need drugs or chemicals to prevent this. For this, we need many different model organisms to study, and here we will be majorly focusing on the worm model Caenorhabditis elegans. So this Caenorhabditis elegans is very close to humans in the phylogenetic tree. Also, its life cycle, its overall lifespan is up to 3 weeks, which is almost similar to that of the average lifespan of a human. Also, its genome has been completely sequenced. That is, all the genes that take place in the normal living of C. elegans are completely known. They have a very simple neural network also, which comprises of 302 neurons. So the neural network or the neural map can be easily monitored. So if we want to study the comparative genomic studies, it's always easier to look at a simpler or a smaller model and then take it to a higher model where we can just compare what we have seen in the smaller model. So to give you an introduction about C. elegans, before going into it, we should thank some people who gave us this wonderful model organism. Sidney Brenner was the first person to use C. elegans as a model for developmental biology. Also, Sulston and Horwitz, they shared Nobel Prize for their work in cell lineage and apoptosis in C. elegans. Fire and Mello, they identified the gene silencing technique in C. elegans using RNA interference. So with this, C. elegans, some of the key features of this organism is that they are very small in size. They can grow maximum up to 1 millimeter. They are transparent so that we can view them using a microscope very easily, and we can see the internal mechanism also. They are very easy to propagate because they can lay eggs and they can produce more progenies. Since the genome has been completely sequenced, we can take them for genetic analysis. Crossing can also be done, test cross, back cross, everything, all the genetic analysis can be done to study the role of different genes. This is the first multicellular organism that was completely sequenced. Also, it has similar morphological structure when compared to mammals, as if it is having a pharynx, intestine, and also the reproduction process, which we'll see later on. Also, they have genome and proteome and also pathway-based conserved mechanism when compared to that of humans. They can be grown either on agar plates like this, or can be frozen in stock and then stored in -80, or we can keep them in liquid cultures also. They have a very short life cycle, which we will see on the coming slides. Also, they can undergo self-fertilization as they have two different sex, male and hermaphrodite. In hermaphrodite, they have both the sperm and oocyte inside the same organism in such a way that it will get fused inside the body itself, and the matured eggs will be laid by the hermaphrodite, and all these progenies will be genetically identical. Whereas males are conserved species that will help for the natural selection process. 1% or lesser than the population of than 1% will be that of males in a given population. This is the another view of a morphological structure of C. elegans. This is a hermaphrodite. So the main characteristic feature of male is a tail structure that they have, so which will have particular kind of fans or rays, which we call, whereas in the case of hermaphrodites, they will be having a thin tail. So this is the difference between hermaphrodite and male, which we can see morphologically. Their life cycle is very short, depending on the optimum temperature in which we grow them. It varies from 1.5 to 3.5 days, depending on which temperature we maintain. Its ideal temperature to grow is 20 degrees Celsius. And their life cycle consists of 4 larval stages, which we call them as L1, L2, L3, and L4. From there, it will go to adult stage. This adult in turn will lay eggs, and the cycle will continue. In between, if there is any stress or any shortage of food, or maybe any shortage for space for them, they will undergo stress and go for a partial hibernation stage from the second larval stage, which we call as the DOR stage. Here, the growth and development of the organism will be arrested, and it will use the stored food for its metabolism. So a DOR larva will be much thinner when compared to the third stage of larva. It will cease its food intake, and also it will completely use whatever energy available inside it for its survival. And in this stage, it can survive up to 2 months. Also, we cannot say that it is going an aging process at this particular point of time. In fact, they are going into a hibernation stage, because once when the stress condition is out, they can come back to such a stage that they can undergo into the adult stage, and they can follow their normal life cycle. So the hunt for a lifespan mutant, like since the genome has been completely sequenced, they were hunt for some of the gene specific or gene silenced mutants, which can either live long or live less. So Johnson et al. First identified a gene which he named as AGE1, which can have maximum lifespan up to 100% more than that of the wild type, and most importantly, they were remaining younger also. Another well-known scientist in C. elegans, Cynthia Kenyon, she identified that the mutants of DAF2 can have many fold increase of lifespan when compared to wild type. So these two genes, the DAF2 and AGE1, comes under the insulin signaling pathway in mammals. So here I am showing you a comparison of the insulin signaling pathway in mammals, C. elegans, and also in Drosophila. So in this, the insulin receptor in mammals corresponds to the DAF2 in C. elegans. Also, the PI3 kinase in mammals corresponds to the AGE1 in C. elegans. And the fork head transcription factor, which mediates all this process, it is orthologous to DAF16 in C. elegans. Another pathway that is also important for pathogen resistance, immunity, and also lifespan is the MAP kinase pathway, or the mitogen activated protein kinase pathway. We will look into this pathway also in the later slides. So this is a brief idea or brief intro of what is C. elegans, what all we can have advantages in it and everything. So with this, how can we go for a drug detection or drug identification, which we will look later on. So for identifying a better drug or to get a proper drug, what are the conditions or what are the things that that particular plant or that particular compound should have? First thing is that it should be non-toxic to the survival of the host. It should increase the lifespan and health span of the host. It should reduce the disease parameters, reduce the cellular damage, and reduce the lipid peroxidation. And also it should decrease the level of aging and stress marker genes. So with this idea, we will look into two different kind of scenarios and we will see how this particular mechanism will work over there. So now we will look into a particular kind of aging process which is known as photoaging, that is caused by UV radiations. So the UV radiations emitted by sun, it can be categorically classified into three: UVA, B and C based on their wavelength. In this, UVC will be completely blocked by the ozone layer, whereas UVA and B can reach air. And both of them can induce photoaging. The major difference is that UVA can penetrate till the dermal layer, whereas UVB can go penetrate up to the epidermis. In this, we will be specifically looking on UVA because of three major reasons. First thing is that it is the major radiation that is reaching air, and major UV radiation, of course. And also it can penetrate deep into the skin and could reach the dermal layer, and also cause many different damages ranging from sunburn, tan, and even which can even lead up to skin cancer. Also, skin cancer has become one of the most important causes of cancer and it is growing every year. So this is a typical case study of photoaging. This particular man, you can see him. He is a man who was 69-year-old truck driver. So one part of his face was continuously getting exposed to sunlight while he was on his job for the past 28 years. So that particular side of his face, as it was getting more sunlight, were showing more signs of aging when compared to the other side of his face. So with this, I was planning to study about photoaging in C. elegans, but till that time there were no study to prove that C. elegans can get affected by photoaging. So the first aim was to prove that C. elegans can in turn get affected by photoaging. So for that, initially the mechanism of photoaging should be understood, and the mechanism so far known is that as UVA get into the skin, it can damage the collagen layer by producing matrix metalloproteases, which is known as MMPs, which will degrade the collagen and will lead to wrinkle formation. With this idea, C. elegans were exposed to UVA on different time points on a strain wherein the collagen gene was attached to a fluorescence marker in such a way that when there is any change in the collagen layer, it will get fluorescence. So those strains were exposed to UVA and taken for confocal imaging, and it was observed that when compared to the unexposed control, the exposed ones were showing difference in the level of collagen. Also, the real-time PCR analysis of collagen gene also showed differential regulation when compared to control. The level of synthesis of new collagen after UV exposure was also monitored, which was much lesser than compared to the unexposed control. So this suggests that C. elegans indeed can get affected by UV radiations. So we know that UVA is a stress inducer. So the level of ROS inside C. elegans were also monitored by using dichlorofluorescent diacetate assay. So this also suggests that there was an increase in the level of ROS inside C. elegans, suggesting that C. elegans got exposed to UVA and it underwent stress and photoaging. This also could reduce the overall lifespan of C. elegans, which was almost around 60% of its normal survival. And also it could reduce the health span of C. elegans also, as because it reduced its normal food intake, and also their normal egg laying behavior was also reduced. To further confirm this, I went for real-time PCR analysis of candidate genes, the genes DAF2, DAF16 and AGE1, which we were talking about in the insulin signaling pathway. Those genes were getting downregulated as the time of exposure increased. Also, the genes which are responsible for the normal health span, that is the pharyngeal pumping, locomotion and egg laying of C. elegans, were also monitored. Those genes were also downregulated, suggesting that when exposed to UVA, C. elegans will undergo photoaging and it will induce stress to the host. Now, it is important to know that which are the particular genes or proteins or pathways that mediate this photoaging process. To identify that, C. elegans exposed to UVA were taken for two-dimensional gel electrophoresis to separate all the proteins that get differentially regulated when exposed to UVA. This is a representative image to show you the gels of one time point, one replicate of all the time points that I had run, and from this all the proteins were identified, all the proteins were spotted by use of bioinformatics softwares, and the differentially regulated proteins were identified. The differentially regulated proteins, that is either upregulated or downregulated proteins, can be identified by this bioinformatics softwares, and these proteins can be handpicked. Later on, they can be purified and then analyzed using MALDI-TOF-TOF analysis. Further, these proteins were identified and the interacting partners or the interacting mechanisms were also understood. To give you some of the interacting players, one was VPS34, which was an ortholog of PI3 kinase, that is the AGE1 in C. elegans. So VPS34 was related to AGE1, and we already came to know that AGE1 was getting differentially regulated also. Another one was ATL1, which mediate the oxidative stress response in C. elegans. We initially saw that C. elegans can, when exposed to UVA, there was an increase in the level of ROS. Another one was PKC1, which could mediate the MAP kinase pathway, and the MAP kinase pathway can also get in contact with the insulin signaling pathway in many different ways. So to see the involvement of these two pathways, first I was focusing on the MAP kinase pathway to see what is the role of MAP kinase pathway in UV mediated photoaging process. So three different mutants were selected: mutant for SEC1, PMK1 and TOL1. In this, the mutants of SEC1 and PMK1, you can see over here that when exposed to UVA, they were not able to survive beyond 120 hours, whereas in the case of TOL1 mutant, even at 120 hours, 25 to 30% of survival was taking place. So it should be observed that when the receptor of this particular pathway, the p38 MAP kinase pathway, is blocked, it is getting activated. It is the pathway is getting activated by some other alternate mechanism. It should be so to understand that, we went back to search the literature and we came to know that a gene named SKN1, which is orthologous to mammalian NRF2, this SKN1 will get to reduce the level of ROS. Just like when ROS is getting more and more inside the host, they will induce the NSY1 over here, and then it can activate the SEC1 and PMK1, which in turn will activate SKN1, and a cyclic process will take place. So to see whether indeed this SKN1 itself was acting, the qPCR or the real-time PCR analysis of SKN1 in all these 3 mutants were done, and it was observed that the level of or the regulation of SKN1 got upregulated only in the TOL1 mutant, whereas in the other 2 mutants it was downregulated. So it could be observed that this reaction that we observed could be mediated by SKN1. To further confirm that, transgenic strain of SKN1 in which SKN1 gene will get fluoresced when it is getting activated, those particular strains were procured and they were exposed to UVA, and it was observed that there was a change in the level of SKN1 when it got exposed to UVA. Further, the role of the JNK MAP kinase pathway was also studied by using 5 different mutants of MEK1, KGB1, KGB2, JNK1 and JKK1. All the 5 mutants did not show much significant change when compared to exposed or unexposed samples, suggesting that this particular pathway, I mean all the genes of this pathway are very important to initiate any reaction against UV mediated stress response, because even when one gene was absent, there was no particular reaction against the UV exposure. Similar thing we observed against DAP16 also, because what happened over here was that in the DAP16 mutant also, they did not show any significant change in lifespan. It did not show any significant increase or decrease in lifespan, suggesting that DAP16 is also very important to initiate any change against it. So how can we use all these ideas to take it to a therapy or a strategy or to develop a drug for photoaging process? So my plan was to look into any kind of natural compounds or any available phytocompounds to have an effect against UV mediated photoaging process. So with a collaboration with an industry, we procured some particular phytochemicals which I cannot name now because of our company policy issues. They are developing a product out of it. So till that time, I cannot name all these things. So I'm just giving code names over here. So these particular compounds had different effects, and the first 4 compounds were showing maximum effect when exposed or unexposed to UVA. So these 4 compounds were further analyzed for their synergistic activity. Synergistic activity is in the sense that both the compounds were taken in half the concentration and mixed in 1:1 ratio, and it was observed that even in that half concentration, the combination was able to show much higher lifespan extension when compared to the individual doses. That we call as the synergistic effect. So these compounds were able to show synergism when exposed or unexposed to UVA, and this we were taking for further product development. Of course, I am not showing all the experiments that we have done in that because I cannot show all those things as it is a part of a product development policy. So to say what I was coming to say about this is that in the case of when we getting exposed to UVA or any particular kind of stress, the level of aging and photoaging was getting drastically increased, and when we got treated by using any kind of phytochemicals or any active compounds, it got reduced, whereas when those compounds were combined, they had a synergistic effect. Similarly, I have to tell you about the neuroprotection of plant extracts also, which I am working over here as the postdoctoral fellow. I'll just give you examples of 2 different plants. Here also, I cannot show you all the data because my manuscript is still under the revision stage, so they are not allowing me to show all data to you. I'm sorry for that. But to give you an overall idea, this is a berry fruit which is similar to our particular native grape or something like that. So this is a particular fruit, whereas this Tribulus asper, it is a leaf where the medical properties have been explored a lot. It could also, it is, both these plants are used in many kind of traditional medicines like Ayurveda, Siddha and everything. So in that, both these plants are able to extend the overall lifespan in C. elegans. They are able to extend their health span. Also, they could activate the antioxidant mechanism inside C. elegans. They could reduce the level of photoaging. They could extend the lifespan of transgenic strain that are expressing A beta inside C. elegans. But the most important point is because if both the plants are able to do all these things, then why we should go for both, I mean, the individual plants? Why can't we go to any one particular plant? That is because one particular plant is doing its action which is dependent on insulin signaling pathway, whereas the other plant will be working independent of insulin signaling pathway, whereas it is working dependent on MAP kinase pathway. So with also there are some other pathways also that are getting involved, which we are currently looking into by means of real-time PCR and also Western blot analysis. So based on this, what I am trying to say over here is that even if we have so many different kinds of plants which is known to have many different kinds of medicinal properties, it is important to make sure that which particular plant can go through which particular pathway, because the insulin signaling pathway or the DAP16 mediated pathway, it is known to regulate the diabetic mechanism also in humans. So if a particular individual who is susceptible to sugars or something, or if his insulin signaling pathway is not acting in a proper way, he is of no use after taking a drug which is acting based on that particular pathway. So the aim should be to think on a particular approach where every patient should be considered as unique and there should be a different treatment strategy based on his overall medical condition. So with this, to just give a conclusion of in the perspective of anti-aging or the anti-photoaging that I was telling about, if you are getting exposed to sun or solar exposure, and if you think that you are getting any kind of photoaging, then with proper diet and the normal gene regulation and little bit of sun protection, you can have or you can develop a healthy aging for you. Also, you have a wide variety of medicinal plants that you can consume or that you can use to treat many different kinds of ailments or disorders. However, which plant to be taken for what particular disease, or which will be the best one to be chosen for a particular condition, we can use a simple model system like Caenorhabditis elegans, which will narrow down what all you need to look into so that you have a better chance of getting a remedy soon. With this, I would like to thank you all for giving me a nice opportunity, and I wish that you all have a long and healthy and happy life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a really excellent, nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Gokul.
Yeah, I can hear you.
In spite of your busy schedule, just you have accepted our invitation.
It's my pleasure, actually. Actually, I'm very happy that you were ready to invite me also, and to be to say, actually, this is my first presentation apart from my regular PhD presentations or my project review presentations or anything. So I'm very happy that I could make my first presentation in front of my college itself. So it's a proud moment for me, actually.
Yeah. It's a proud moment for me also to invite you as a resource person
Yeah,
to our host institution. Okay.
of
Okay.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Okay. Oh. Um.
Yeah, so can I go to the
Hello.
chat box to see if there are any questions?
Oh, before that, just I'm going to highlight what are the points just you have
Sure, sure, sure.
mentioned in your presentation. Research person have highlighted the basics and mechanism behind neurodegenerative disorders and Alzheimer's disease, the importance and characteristic feature of C. elegans as a model organism, and he also highlighted the parameters how to screen the drug, and he also given some informations of short and long lived lifespan mutants and how we can correlate that short and long lifespan mutants to the humans. And he also highlighted the role of UVA in skin cancer and mechanism of photoaging and its effect in C. elegans. He given some information of some proteins like ATL1, H1, PKC1, all those proteins, the mechanism of those proteins in photoaging process. And he also highlighted the activation of XK1 DAF16, how it going to combat the UVA exposure. And finally, he has he has given some information regarding the synergetic action of phytocompounds to overcome the aging. And finally, he have concluded while choosing the plan, just we have to check the mechanism of action in which pathway the plant is going to act, and also we have to check the medical condition of a particular person. So this with this note, I hand over the session to Dr. P. Sendil Kumar sir to take over the session.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening us with your excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Now we'll go ahead and take some time for questions now.
Yeah,
There are
sure.
few questions.
I think I can read the questions rather than I don't want to disturb you. So I think I myself will read the questions. So it's
Okay,
fine
sir,
for me.
thank you. Proceed, sir, please.
Yeah, okay. And also, if you people don't mind, I would also appreciate if somebody would want to come and ask in person also. I'm fine with it if somebody wants to ask that one also. But initially, I will go through the questions in the chat box. So first question by Dr. KV Shalini. Could you explain the gene that is responsible for photoaging in C. elegans, similar to genes of humans? So yeah, actually, in the case of C. elegans, what we have seen initially is that there is a change in the level of collagen expression. So in the case of C. elegans, there are many types of collagen phenotypes, and I was majorly looking at the collagen 19 gene. Whereas in the case of humans, it is of 3 different types of collagen, wherein collagen 1 and 2 were getting regulated much. But we cannot say that the regulation will stop just with collagen, because as the kind of exposure is getting more and more, or as the level of photoaging is getting increased more and more, then there is a chance that the FOXO transcription factor inside the cell, that is DAF16 in C. elegans, that particular pathway can also will initiate the repair mechanism by the host. So we cannot just say that only one gene or two gene will get regulated, but initial response will be started by the collagens, and as the damage keeps on progressing, then the mammalian NRF2 will come into play, followed by the FOXO transcription factor. These are the major players, and also there are many small other players also that also come into fore. So till now I am working on photoaging only. So in C. elegans there are not many people working in photoaging, so hopefully I can come up with more details in the upcoming days. Okay, the next question by Preeti Saravanan. Whether the same process UV exposure used in the earthworm as a model organism? No, I'm not very sure about it, because I'm not very sure that we can either use earthworm as a model for photoaging, because the first thing is that earthworm, they don't come out of soil a lot of times. even though C. elegans also were identified from soil, but still they were getting exposed to UV, and there were some changes that was happening in it. But in the case of earthworm, no, I haven't seen any studies that have been done for that. But there have been some studies done in mice and higher model systems. Yes. So let me go to the next question. Yeah, Adit Biotech, is UVA mechanism applicable to zebrafish? I hope it is applicable to zebrafish, but I'm not very sure that under any normal circumstances whether they will get exposed to it or not. But still, zebrafish is also a very good model, just like that of C. elegans, and it is also gaining much popularity nowadays. So we need to see if nobody has done work in that, then it should be a nice opportunity to start working in it and just see like whether it is getting affected and whether we can study in that. So it is an area which has to be explored now. So looking for the next question. Yeah, by Aravind Kannan, does mitochondria will play a role in aging process? Of course, mitochondria will play a role in the aging process. Mitochondria-based aging, that is a very separate field. Actually, in the case of aging, there are many particular pathways that will come across, like the mitochondria-based aging process, the calorie restriction aging process, also some other mechanisms also. So initially, when I was looking to make sure that whether C. elegans are getting the photoaging itself, I had to make sure that whatever the changes that I observe is beyond all these processes. So I had to do some small experiments to make sure that either the mitochondrial aging or the dietary restriction aging or not any other mechanism is coming into action. So that was looked into, but mitochondria will surely play a role in aging process. Actually, all of these processes will have their own role, and if we could delay any one of this, then also we can make sure that the host can have a healthy kind of an aging process. So only I was majorly focusing on stress-induced aging, because stress-induced aging is getting more and more these days, and that is the most easiest way to stop, because as we get more and more stress because of the current life situation or the maybe the new way of living and all, it's the stress-induced aging is always on the rise. So that was the immediate issue to be addressed. But also, yes, mitochondria will also play a role in the aging process. Next question by Chellamuthu. What is your positive control to compare your experimental product? Okay, the positive control that I was using over here was folic acid and also green tea extract. So based on that, because they are known antioxidants which can have very good mechanism. Photoaging is otherwise called as oxidation stress-induced premature aging if its most of antioxidants may act as anti-aging property. Again, I'm going through the question of Chellamuthu. Photoaging is otherwise called as oxidation stress-induced premature aging. Yes, it is called like, we can call it like that because it is a stress-induced premature aging process. If it's most of the antioxidants may act as an anti-aging property. Maybe the major thing is that not all antioxidants can act over here. The thing is that when I was showing you the compounds, not all the compounds were showing good activity and not all the antioxidants were showing synergistic activity. I can give you an example wherein two different antioxidants which were showing individual activity alone, they were not able to give a synergistic activity. Rather, when they were combined together, the activity got reduced in such a way that they became a toxin. So we cannot always say that any particular antioxidant you give it and it will get treated. No, we have to make sure that which particular antioxidant has to be given, and also the dose is also important. because you have to make sure that the particular dose is going in, otherwise there won't be any kind of effect that we are expecting. So going to the next question. Yeah, I think that's all. I couldn't see any more questions. If I have missed anything, can you please let me know? I hope I haven't missed anything.
No, sir, that's
Yeah.
looks like we have covered all the queries, and thank you for clarifying all the doubts. And I'm
you.
also having only one question.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any ethical clearance need for working with C. elegans, sir, in our laboratory?
No. There is that is one of the another application of using C. elegans is that there is no ethical problems regarding C. elegans because it's a worm model, and also it cannot have these kind of it does not come under any of these ethical barriers. So we don't need any kind of ethical clearance for using C. elegans.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for clarifying all the doubts, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now I would like to invite convener cum associate professor and head of the department, Dr. V. Bhuvaneshwari, to say a few words and honor our chief guest. Ma'am, please.
So, thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful and nice presentation. You have explained each and every point clearly, and we are very much proud that our alumnus has achieved this much great position in C. elegans research. And I hope you will accept our collaboration to study the different effects of the plant extracts in the aging process.
Sure.
Now, on behalf of Kongu Nadu Arts and Science College, and our department behalf, I would like to, we are very much delighted to honor our chief guest with the e-certificate. Sir, please accept this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Is it visible, sir?
No, actually somebody else is presenting. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite Dr. R. Amsaveni, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, and Organizing Secretary of this webinar series to deliver the consolidated report of this webinar series. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
A pleasant afternoon to all. Myself, Dr. Amsaveni, working as Assistant Professor, the Department of Biotechnology of this esteemed institution. I take this great opportunity to present the consolidated report of this International Alumni Webinar Series on insights into translational research and its applications. The webinar series was held from 3/6/2020 to 8/6/2020 with our prestigious alumni as resource persons. With the blessings of our President, Dr. M. Aruchami, sir, and by the unconditional support and motivation of a dynamic Secretary and Director, Dr. C. A. Vasagi, ma'am, this webinar series was organized with our alumni as resource persons. The motive of this webinar is to bring together the prides of KASC, knowledge sharing among the research community, as well as to provoke research ideas in young upcoming scientists. About 5 resource persons joined this webinar and enlightened us on their fields of research. The first day of this webinar was successfully started by 2 p.m. on 3rd June, and our respected Dean Academics and Head Teach Department of Biotechnology, Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar, sir, offered welcome address. Our Honorable Secretary and Director, Dr. C. A. Vasagi, ma'am, inaugurated the webinar series. She felt so happy to have alumni as a resource person, and she also expressed her views on translational research. Our beloved principal, Dr. M. Lakshmanasamy, sir, rendered felicitation, and he felt so proud to listen to lecture from one of his first batch biotech students at our esteemed institution. The first day of this webinar, that is on 3rd June, our resource person was Dr. Kalpana Surendranath, leader of Genomic Engineering Lab, University of Westminster, London. Ma'am spoke on the topic, the CRISPR revolution, rewrite the genetic blueprint of life, write a better future. Dr. Kalpana ma'am highlighted as like restriction enzymes, CRISPR-Cas technology also invented from a bacteria to evade virus. RNA protein complex can do wonders in rewriting the genome even in breast cancer. CRISPR-Cas9 technology is also used as a diagnostic tool even in COVID-19 detection, replacing the real-time PCR instrumentation. The second day session on 4th June at 11 a.m. was enlightened by Dr. Gandhi T.K. Bhupati, Senior Research Scientist, Institute of Molecular and Cell Biology, Agency for Science, Technology and Research, Singapore. Sir spoke on the topic, Cancers, a Tale of Incidence and Death, India and the World. He gave a brief introduction to cancers, causes of cancer, cancer evolution, and the epidemiology of cancers in India and worldwide. The third session was started by 2 p.m. of 6th June 2020. Our resource person was Dr. M.A. Shibu sir, Principal Investigator, Cardiovascular and Mitochondrial Related Diseases Research Center, Buddhist Zuchi Medical Foundation, Taiwan. His talk was on the topic stem cell therapy for aging-associated disorders. Sir highlighted on stem cell transplantation, age-related changes in the central nervous system, stem cell therapy for Alzheimer's disease, major clinical hurdles for routine clinical implementation, and stem cell homing. The fourth day session of this webinar was on 7th June 2020 at 11 a.m. and the resource person was Dr. M. Giriram Kumar sir, postdoctoral fellow, Center for Integrated Genomics, University of Lausanne, Switzerland. He shared his views on the topic, the Drosophila 7sk SNRNP complex is required for synaptic growth and function of motor neurons. He highlighted about the role of LARP7 protein by using recent technologies such as CRISPR-Cas9 for knock-in and knockout and also using RNAi technology. The final day of this webinar, that is today, 8th June, we are enlightened by our resource person, Dr. Prashant Mani Iyer, postdoctoral fellow, Department of Clinical Chemistry, Faculty of Allied Health Sciences, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. Sir shared his views on the topic Caenorhabditis elegans, an in vivo model for drug discovery, anti-aging, and neuroprotection. Sir highlighted on the connection between aging and diseases, introduction about C. elegans, the model organism, methodologies for drug identification, and mechanisms of photoaging, neuroprotection using plant extracts. Approximately about 150 participants joined each session from our state as well as from other states, and many of the participants joined our live streaming and get benefited. All of our resource persons clarified the queries of the participants at the end of each sessions. And I would like to record in this occasion, our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. V. Chinnusamy sir, provided the moral support and suggestions throughout the series. Our Dean Academics and Head PG Department of Biotechnology, as well as the convener of this webinar series, Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar sir, and Dr. V. Bhuvaneshwari ma'am, convener of this webinar and head UG Department of Biotechnology, involved in offering welcome address and taking all the initiatives to bring all of us together for this knowledge sharing sessions. The organizing secretaries of this webinar, myself, Dr. Amsaveni, and Mr. Dr. M. Gogul Ramnath sir, and my most supportive department faculty members, Dr. P. Sendil Kumar sir, Dr. G. Anbarasi ma'am, Dr. R. Ranjit Kumar sir, and Dr. B. Vishnupriya ma'am has taken various roles like welcoming, offering welcome address, expressing words of gratitude, introducing the resource persons for each session, and also acting as session coordinators. With this note, we'll move to the valedictory session of this webinar series. May I now invite Dr. S. Paulsamy sir, a great botanist, Dean R&D. Hello, Dr. Madan Shankar sir.
Hello. Hello.
Sir, Dr.
Paulsamy sir இல்லையா?
காணாம லெஃப்ட் ஆயிட்டாரு இருக்குங்க சார்.
அப்படியா?
ஜாயின் பண்ணுங்க. ஓகே சார்.
இவரு CEO சார்.
CEO sir join பண்ணல sir, வேற ஒரு மீட்டிங்ல இருக்காரு sir.
அப்படியா? Okay.
Okay sir, just a minute sir. Now I invite our Dean Academics and convener of this webinar series, Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar sir, Associate Professor and Head PG Department of Biotechnology, to share few words. Sir, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Amsaveni. Dr. Prashant, the resource person of this today's webinar. Sorry that I joined late. I had a couple of other work to complete. So at the outset, please accept my apologies because I joined only when your question answer session was going on. And this whole webinar series, which was started on 3rd of June 2020, saw most of our illustrious alumni who have achieved great laurels and great positions in their chosen field of research. And I hope all the participants who have joined here would have got some insights and inputs from these lecture sessions. Also, we would have got some knowledge of how to go about with translational research, because at the moment, translational research is something which is going to benefit the society by large. Secondly, I request all the alumni who have discussed about their research work and also about the very novel things that are happening in and around their campus and also around the world, to also share these knowledge on a time-to-time basis to the budding students of our Department of Biotechnology, so that they will also have a chance to understand, they will also have a chance to learn, and also get connected to people like you who are doing quality research in different parts of the globe. I also urge or request all the alumni to please get in contact with your classmates and see that you register in our alumni WhatsApp group, so that we can involve all of them and create a big consortia of knowledge sharing and also on research sharing amongst us, which will be useful for the upcoming batches of the biotechnology department by large, and also the college in a larger perspective. I should thank the efforts that are taken by the department, in particular by Dr. Bhuvaneshwari, Dr. Amsaveni, and all the other faculty members for arranging good webinar series of this kind. And at this moment, I also will want to state that this webinar series will not have a valediction today, but it will continue for the months to come, where we are actually planning to bring in alumni from industry, alumni from other areas as well, so that we can have a massive knowledge sharing amongst us. So we will be continuing this webinar series in the future as well. I congratulate all the alumni and wish them great success in their chosen career, and request all the alumni to keep in touch with us and be a part of all the activity that we are doing in the interest of the students and also in the interest of the community by large. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your support, sir.
Thank you so much.
I'm happy to say that this program was displayed in MHRD's Institutional Innovation Council News Corner. It's a happy moment for all of us.
Hello, Prashant. Hello. Hello.
Yes, I'm here. Tell me, please.
Sir,
Hello,
we are
Prashant. There is one
waiting
more.
for
Hello.
our Dean sir to join.
Yeah, sure.
Hello. Before that, just there is one more question from our participant side.
Oh,
Shall I
I'm
take
sorry
to
if I
you?
missed it. Yeah, can
No,
you
no, no.
just,
You, okay.
yeah, can you just,
The question is from TJ Jomi. She would like to know whether if there is
mm-hmm,
any other treatments or
mm-hmm.
therapies induced to suppress the progerin.
I'm sorry
She would
to
like
suppress
to
the,
know if suppress the progerin.
maybe to suppress the progression of the disease.
I
Actually, the
think so.
question I'm not very clear with. Actually, if there is any treatment or therapies to suppress the progression of, or maybe to suppress the particular protein means, yes, there are some particular therapies, but it's not yet available in the field. The studies are still going on. Actually,
Oh,
if I'm still not sure whether this question is based on photoaging or maybe based on Alzheimer's, but in both the cases, it's not very prevalent nowadays. In the case of Alzheimer's based any kind of neuroprotection, the problem is that to make any drug to cross the blood-brain barrier is a big issue which we are still facing. Whereas in the case of photoaging, still the clinical trials are going on to see the genes and pathways that are getting involved. So I think that's the answer for that.
um, Prashant, just she is asking about the progerin gene of progeria disease.
Okay, I'm not very much sure about what kind of disease that is.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I cannot
okay.
answer on that.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Now
you.
we have our Dean R&D, the great botanist, the ocean of research, and ever supporting personality, Dr. S. Paulsamy, sir, for the valedictory address. Sir, I request
Yes,
you to
ma'am.
share few
Okay,
words.
thank you, Amswani. Um, Good afternoon, friends. Actually, I am very proud that the alumni of Biotechnology Department, they are placed in different positions at international level. It is very prestigious for us. Our institution is very proud that we are having that much personalities in different parts of the world. In this occasion, I congratulate the Biotechnology Department, Dr. Bhuvaneswari and Amsaveni and other team members for organizing this type of webinar for the benefit of the scholars, students, and the faculty members in the new area of the life science research. So actually, this webinar series for the last 5 days, I think the participants have enjoyed well about the new areas of biotechnology, particularly in the therapeutic application of biotechnological tools. So many persons they have a research output in the area of therapeutic applications, particularly the stem cell research, the anti-cancer properties, like that they have worked. So at this juncture, these are all the areas we need much. The updated knowledge, updated technology they have developed, they said in the past 5 days. So definitely, I assure that all participants they have gained some knowledge, acquired some knowledge in the area. Definitely, in future, this will be useful for them to do research in these areas for the benefit of the mankind. And basic research, basic science research is the most essential to develop tools and then the concepts for the application field or the translational research. So in biotechnology, our college, they are doing well in different areas of research, and the outcome also applied in the land side. The end users or the consumers, they are getting benefit by the outcome of the research made by the biotechnology department. One more thing I have to mention, the tapping the traditional knowledge about the therapeutic uses, particularly in countries like India, is more essential. The validation by using modern technology, like what you have say, the stem cell research, the stem therapy, even now they are using the convalescent plasma therapy for the treatment of these kinds of SARS-CoV-2. So these pandemic infectious diseases in recent months, they threatened the world because of the some lacuna, or we can say this may be due to some climate change. The impact of climate change may cause the outbreak of this type of diseases worldwide. the human being, mankind, they have to find solutions for these type of things. So traditional knowledge that can be more essential nowadays. So we are having enormous traditional knowledge in India. So we have to tap the traditional knowledge from our forefathers, ancient people like that, and they are having records also in Tamil literature. Also, we are having lot of literature regarding the traditional knowledge about the medicinal plants and medicinal uses, etc. So the right thing, we have to find out the persons who are having such kinds of great knowledge in the plant, so we can get the knowledge from them, and we have to validate that one. Definitely that will be more useful. Even nowadays in the COVID period, the government organizations and also many research personalities, they have recommended some herbal formulations to develop the immunity. So what are the things available there? The candidates, the potential candidates available in such kinds of herbal formulations, how they are useful, what is the mechanism involved then. So this is a new field of research. Definitely we can get lot of things from that kind of research. So the validation of the traditional knowledge, that is the most essential for the traditional country. We are having long history of medicinal practices by using plants. So now the valuing that type of knowledge, that will be scientific valuation, that will be more useful, I think. So for the past 5 days in different areas, the cancer, particularly for cancer stem cell research and the Drosophila model they have used for some diseases. So these are all the items, new items for us actually. Indeed, the people in our department, so they are having a very good laboratory facilities, but their research in these areas somewhat limited. So definitely in future they will do research in that area in collaboration with our alumni in different countries. And then the anti-cancer, for example, I can say so many number of plants in and around Coimbatore in Western Ghats. Western Ghats is very accessible to Coimbatore and Kungunadu College. Many of our students in botany department, even still the faculty members, they are doing collecting the plants, the traditional knowledge and the information given by the local people, and they are validating. They are also publishing the papers in good journals also. So the further sustenance of the work is more important. So after completing the work, they simply finish after publishing 1 or 2 papers. But we have to go up to end. Deep research is essential. That is consistency in the research. Commitment is more essential in a particular, even you are doing a simple research in a particular area, the continuous commitment, the sustenance is more essential to explore all those things. So that is the only advice I am giving to our own faculty members and the persons who are doing the work outside the country. So the complete detail picture about the plant or any type of research that will be brought out, then only it will be more useful. So after completing the work, after publishing the work, simply they are moving away and doing some other job. So this is not at all helpful to research, because our resources, we are very happily enough that the childhood vaccines, we are supplying 40% to the global need. So we are a potential country producing lot of medicines, lot of vaccines from India. More than 40% we are supplying throughout the world the childhood vaccines. So such a potential country we are having, manpower, knowledge, everything is rich in India. Only thing we have to divert the things in a right way and in the production side. So definitely the continuous research, the consistency in the research, commitment, flexibility in the research, and then the support from the government agencies and the coordination between the teams. So integrated approach nowadays we are saying. So between the departments, between the different disciplines like chemistry, physics, biology, they together should do a work that will give you a good outcome. So the integrated approach, for that, the support from government is very essential. So that also for the developing countries like India, we are having certain limitations. Anyhow, knowledge point of view and technology point of view, we are very well versed. So with the help of our friends in the Western countries, definitely we will do the work in future. So I congratulate all the participants for sparing your time to listen all the topmost lectures at world level our alumni have delivered in the past 5 days. In this occasion, I congratulate the conveners, Dr. Madan Sankar, Dean Academics, Dr. Bhuvaneswari, Head of the Department of Biotechnology, organizing secretaries Dr. Amsaveni and Dr. Gogol Ramnath, and the other session coordinators Dr. Sendil Kumar, Dr. Anbarsi, Dr. Ranjit Kumar, Dr. B. Vishnupriya, and other scholars. So for arranging the wonderful webinar series in this lockdown period, thank you once again. I thank one and all again to all for your participation and then the contribution to the webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your gracing occasion with your presence. Now, I request if you are interested to tell
Thank you.
feedback, can unmute your mic and say a few words. Now, I request the participants, if you are interested to tell the feedback, you can unmute your mic and say a few words.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, yes, ma'am.
Sir, I would like to give a feedback. Actually, I'm a dentist and I'm doing a PhD in TMJ related aging disorder, the temporomandibular joint related aging disorders, and I'm focusing mainly on stem cell therapy only. So since I came across this webinar series, I thought of attending this. And the very first day, the sessions were really good on all these 5 days, especially all the discussions related to aging disorders were very good and very informative because I'm not a full-fledged biotechnologist. Though I'm a dentist, I was able to capture a few things from all these series. So thank you for this wonderful session and thank you organizers too. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other participants, please? Okay, thank you. Participants will be received their e-certificate after 1 week. With this happy moment, I invite Dr. G. Anbarasi, Assistant Professor, Department of Biotechnology, to deliver vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Dr. Anbarasi.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm a student from Department of Biotechnology, 2nd UG, Muhammad Basha from RVS College of Arts and Science.
Yes.
I had attended your webinar for past 5 days, ma'am. I had attended all the webinars.
Okay.
According to me, it's very useful and I had gained a lot of knowledges from your alumni, and I would like to thank the organizing committee of Kongunadu Arts and Science College. Really, it's a very nice exposure for UG students and as well as the scholars to expose their own interest and to gain a lot of knowledges from the alumni they had already in a very high position, and we can able to learn a lot of things from them. So I really like to thank Kongunadu Arts and Science Organizing Committee of Department of Biotechnology. And I request you all, if you have any other webinars like this, kindly please inform us, ma'am. It will be very
Sure.
useful for us.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for your nice words. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank all the members of the Kongunadu Arts and Science College for their hardly effort in this webinars. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Now I request Dr. Anbarasi ma'am for the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Good afternoon to all present here. I deem it's a great privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. First and foremost, I thank our Honorable President, Dr. M. Aruchami sir, for his immense support and encouragement rendered in the growth of the department. Thank you, sir. I take this opportunity to thank our beloved Secretary and Director, ma'am, Dr. C.A. Vasuki, ma'am, for her able guidance, always encouraged us. Thank you, ma'am. I am grateful to thank our respected Principal, sir, Dr. M. Lakshmanasamy, for his kindness, hospitality, and continuous support for organizing this webinar series in this pandemic support situation. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our department well-wishers, beloved Chief Executive Officer, Dr. V. Chinnusamy sir, respected Dean R&D, Dr. S. Paulusamy sir, for their unstinted support and encouragement in all our activities. Thank you, sir. I express my special gratitude to our beloved HODs and convener of this program, Dr. S.R. Madan Shankar sir, HOD of PG Department and Dean Academics, and our beloved HOD, Dr. V. Boneshwari, Head of UG Department. For once again, thank you all. And also in this occasion, on behalf of Kongnadu Arts and Science College and Department of Biotechnology, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our distinguished chief guest of this today's session, Dr. Prasant Mani Iyer from Thailand, for making an excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. And also I thank all the distinguished chief guests of this series for providing an excellent presentation and also the very informative discussion session in all the session in our busy in their busy schedule. Thank you all. Also, I would like to thank our librarian sir, Dr. Sendil Kumar sir, and all the librarian staff members for providing a technical support. Thank you all. Also, I also grateful to thank the organizing secretaries, Dr. R. Amsaveni ma'am and Dr. M. Gokul Ramnath sir, for organizing this wonderful webinar series in this situation. Thank you all. And also, I thank all the coordinator of this session and teaching and non-teaching staff and also the student volunteers for making this event successful with your invaluable contribution. Thank you all. I also wish to express my big thanks to all the participants for their active participation in this event. Once again, thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Prasant, sir.
Yeah, can I just put a few words
sir.
from my side also?
Please. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Please.
So at this point, I would also like to thank every one of you, especially to Dr. Gokul Ramnath and also Dr. Amsaveni. Actually, Dr. Gokul, he was my classmate during our PG, and Amsaveni ma'am was our senior. So it is indeed a happy and emotional moment for me that I was able to come in front of you all and to present in front of my college itself. So it was a happy and proud moment for me. And I thank each and every organizer who are behind this webinar series. A wonderful, wonderful thank you to all of you. And to very happy that you also made me also a part of this. Thank you, one and all. And thanks a lot. Yeah. Dr.
Thank
Gokul,
you,
please.
Dr. Prashant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, ma'am.
Yeah, we are proud of you.
After so long, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With this, I am concluding our webinar series. Thank you, everyone, for your constant support. I request you all to join in future programs also. Thank you. Thank you once again.